So we're on page 208 in the Maimah Vyadata Hayoim from Tafresh Tzadik Beis 1932. Let's go right to the paragraph because we gave a very long monologue yesterday and we learned little inside, so let's do that now. V'zehu re'ei emunah. David HaMelech says until him, you need to feed faith. Why must you feed faith? The Moshe Rabbeinu L'Sholem, Moshe Rabbeinu blessed memory, Ho Yerayim Mehemna, he was the loyal shepherd. Rayim Mehemna. Shehoya Mefarnes es Yisrael v'noishel ha'mozen shel emunah. The Frierdiker Rebbe explains that the meaning of this is that Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who fed the Jewish people, and he gave them food. What type of food? Emunah. Moshe Rabbeinu gives a yid emunah. U'kamay begashmi is just as it's true in the physical world. Harei ha'odem ha'eichel meichel gashmi, someone who eats a physical food, v'yidei zeh mischaskim k'yikaytzav aruchniim. It makes your mind work better, your heart work better. You can make Cain, so too. B'inyan emunah. It's regarding the concept of emunah. By understanding and comprehending godly ideas, as much as we're able to know, this itself, it's the food with faith. And this is what Moshe said to Yisrael. This is a reference, Hillel, back to the Zohar that he cited at the beginning of 205, that chapter. He cited a Zohar there, okay? Mm-hmm. Look, and let's see how he explains. This is what Moshe said to Yidden, quote, until now I have taught you the way you teach an infant, a child. What was the limud? What was the study that he taught us? Liminde ulistakola, to know, ulistakola, and to gaze. Leida ulistakil in Hebrew, liminde ulistakola is Aramaic. He translates it now into Hebrew. Leida, to know, ulistakil, and to gaze, ki inyan hayediyah. What does that mean? Because the concept of knowledge isn't only to understand the idea clearly with your mind. In Yiddish, he understands the intellectual concept. That's not all what we mean when we say Liminda ulistakil. Kiyim listakola. The histakel, the gazing, is a further explanation what the Zohar means with the word leminda, to know. What type of knowledge do we mean here? A gazing type of knowledge. Shehu iyun. In Hebrew, we have a concept le'ayin, iyun, in depth. You know, I told you the other day. There's learning the Gemara b'pkiyas, quickly and in a shallow way, a cursory way, and then there's learning the Gemara b'iyun, deep, slow, methodical. And the yeshiva world is this way too. There's one system of learning to cover a lot of ground. There's another system to learn 6 to 10 pages an entire year, but to take it apart from all angles. The brisk derech and limud is that way. Other drachim are not that way. So we have the word iyun, to be ma'ayin, to deeply look into it. Says the Rebbe, when the Zohar says leminda, Moshe Rabbeinu taught the Jews like you teach a child. Leminda, to know, to have knowledge of God. What type of knowledge? Listakola. Listakola is an elaboration, or clarifies what should be the leminda, what should be the knowledge. It should consist of such deep learning of listakola, which means la'ayin. And here it's important just for a moment to digress and say that it's important to have a daily, a weekly time to do the learning in the way of Laminda. Listakola, I'm sorry. You know, we say Chitas, we learn Chitas, Rambam, Daf HaYomi. All of those, usually those type of learning is more cursory, more superficial. Why? Because you don't have the time or the energy or the interest to delve into it. I talk for myself. That's when it's easy to get bored and stale and give up. So that's why I remember the Rebbe once said, one second, Hillel, the Rebbe once said, I remember he said this regarding Pirkei Avos. You know, the custom of the Jewish, our custom is to study Pirkei Avos between Pesach and Shavuos. So the Rebbe said that many people read it, they don't really study it. So what's the solution? To take one Mishnah or one line in a Mishnah and to delve into that be'iyun. So you have excitement to want to know more. Yes, Hillel.
So the phrase "leminda lehistalka," leminda is like the word "lomeid." That's the word I'm stuck on.
No, leminda means leida, to know.
To know, okay. So it basically means like a review, an in-depth review, kind of. That's the implication of the style of learning.
Why do you use the word review? An in-depth learning. Why review?
Okay, fine.
Yeah. We call this today the study be'iyun. That's the word that's used. Be'iyun. Okay. V'hainu de basaga hu inyan ha'iyun. That when we talk about hasaga, comprehension avi, we're talking about studying in a way of iyun, of analysis, of depth. Hainu de levad zeh shu yedei im seichol ha'inyan hu. I digress for a moment. I went to see a hernia specialist yesterday or the day before, and he did what I call this listakola. Now, I don't mean listakola of my body. The office was empty. It was in Bensonhurst. Bensonhurst is a section that borders Borough Park, closer to the water, to the Atlantic Ocean. And the house is a corner house. It's huge. I think he just rents an office there. It must be over 100-year-old house. And his office looks like from 1950. He had a radio there probably going back to 1950. And it was immaculate, the office. And no one else was there, only he and I. And he must have been about a 70-year-old man. And it was a machaya, like no pressure. He had all the time in the world for me. I'm talking to Velvel here as a doctor. So I really felt, my wife, when I came back, she said, so how my first time I met him, I think he's a Frum Yid. So, but a doctor, you know. So how do I like him? I said I loved him because he took his time. We were able to dialogue and agree and disagree and think from this side and that side. It was really an iyun. It was iyun. And he didn't jump to conclusions like I've gone to a few other doctors at Columbia. Oh, it's the Harvard of hospitals. Columbia, right? And he was very flippant, and he says, I'm a colon specialist. I'm not a hernia specialist. Go see a hernia specialist. Which is true, but come on. You don't know, you can't tell me about the hernia. You do this day and night. You cut people, and you can't tell me. Okay. The point is, that was Leminda. That was just Leda knowledge. Okay, I felt here, it's this. I felt here, it's not this. Okay, we don't know more. Get an MRI, get a CAT scan. And this guy tells me he doesn't trust the CAT scans and the MRIs. I said, it's right in front of you. He says, sorry, I'm feeling you, and I don't feel it. And he says, you know what? They make mistakes many times, or they're not precise. You have a general, yes, the CAT scan gives you a general idea, but it doesn't mean we should operate. That's Leminda. That's Listakola. L'stakola means to analyze it. And the same is in learning. What's the value of a shear like this, the interactive shear, a kailul, where you have back and forth and you could argue it out and you could discuss it and you can, you know what I'm saying, dialogue. That's l'stakola. So that's what the Rebbe says here. He says, l'iyun, the bahasaga hu inyan ha'iyun. What do we mean hasaga, to comprehend something? It means to do an in-depth analysis of the matter, of the issue. In addition to knowing, Yonason, the facts. You know the facts. You understand it well. This is beautiful. You hear that, Avram? He is filled with this idea. I love the way the Rebbe says it, Velvel. He becomes filled up like a car gets filled up with gas. This idea fills up his intellectual and emotional tank. This is the process of iyun. The process of iyun, and guess what, Chevra? When you're mamula, you think about it when you're sleeping, and when you're eating, and when you're walking. It's all over you, because it fills you up. Let's continue. In Yiddish. Das heißt, nicht nur, was hat dem Inyan sichli arum genommen. Not only did he surround the intellectual idea, nor euch, but more so, das was der Inyan. What happens is that the idea hat ihm in ganzen, next page, top of 209, vernommen. The idea swallowed him. And by the way, this is almost a quote from Tanya chapter Hey, when the Alter Rebbe speaks about learning Torah. There's the makif and the mukaf. There is being surrounded. Surrounding the issue you're studying, and there is being taken in and being surrounded. Let's continue. That when you study something in depth, in an analytical way, you become filled with this idea. The issue fills you. Is durchgenommen von dem Inyan, he is permeated by the idea. As we see in actual life, we see there's certain things we only understand them in a cursory way. And he understands it very well. So what do I mean in a cursory? No, I take that back. Not just in a cursory way. You understand well. There are things you understand well. However, the fact is you have a sophisticated idea that you understand. However, at other times, haskola kazu, you have such an idea, such an intellectual thought, which enters your mind and your heart, and you become filled with that idea. And Yiddish, the haskola vernemt im in ganzen durch und durch. The idea permeates him completely through and through. So even the first idea that you understand well, nevertheless, you're not filled up. It doesn't fill you up. There's another part of your being, Avram, that's missing the idea. The idea hasn't touched that part. So the gas hasn't gotten to every part of the motor, whatever. It's gone to this section and that section. It's not a good muscle because in a car, that's the way it is. If you put gas into the carburetor or another part of the car, you got an explosion or a big problem. So you don't want that. But in the nimshal, in the moral, we're talking about the idea should be studied to such a point where you are a walking idea. You're not just someone who has information stored, but the information permeates you. And it's in your arm, in your feet, in your heart, in your mind, in your eyes and in your nose. Everything bespeaks the idea because you're filled from it. He repeats himself that because the specific idea of comprehension, which we call in Hebrew hasaga, this is the idea of iyun, of in-depth analysis. This is on the intellectual side. What about in the avodah side? Says the Rebbe. Avodah, what does this mean practically in serving Hashem? Inyan ha'izbonenus. Iyun equals hisbonenus, meditation, reflection. So right here, we're always looking, what is the Chabad definition of hisbonenus? The Rebbe says it right here, that the idea of hisbonenus is iyun. It's not just chanting words, breathing exercises, and cursory reflection. Yes, Yonason.
Now, the word hisbonenus is a very interesting word. It comes from the word bina. Bina is the root of the word.
Yes.
Then there's a hit, which is reflexive, which means to make yourself understand. In other words, you go over the information and you make yourself understand it. Then there's a double nun over there to indicate that it should be done in a strong way, to really, really understand.
Wait, stop. Who told you the double nun implies a strong way? Is that because of the grammar or just your own interpretation?
I heard it from Rabbi Jacobson.
Who, Yossi Jacobson?
Yeah, Jacobson.
Uh-huh. Okay, but he didn't give a source, because I never heard that before.
Yeah.
Okay,
Anyway,
go ahead, but your point is well taken.
The point is that not only do you understand it, but you make yourself understand it to the extent that you can see it.
Okay, so the Rebbe says that the equivalent of iyun, b'seichel, the equivalent of the in-depth analysis that you use your mind to comprehend something, in avodah, that's the idea of hisbonenus. And he says, now, how do we do this? Look what the Rebbe says here, and underline it, because we're always searching for different things in Chassidus, and sometimes you come across kind of a one-line or two-line definition. It's worth to underline and to emphasize so for the future as well. You can always go back to it. This means that this idea that you know, and this idea you comprehend, it makes an impact in you, it changes you for the good, in all of your practice and conduct, in all of your behavior and your walking, whatever, your applications. Hisbonenus, if done right, says the Rebbe, it will make a change. In other words, so if there isn't a change in my behavior and my conduct, it means there's a lack, something missing in my hisbonenus. If I'm doing hisbonenus, it cannot be that you should do hisbonenus the right way and not be a changed man. How do you like that? That's what it says here. The Zehu, says the Rebbe, going back to the Zohar, leminda, to know, l'stakol, and to gaze. He explains. Shetia hayediya ba'ofen kazeh, one should know this idea. Shemevi oisel de'astaklos, that it should lead you to gazing, ubameti idiosi vasiosei, and what should the content of your knowledge and your comprehension be? Lemeil berazadem nusa, to go in, vihi, this means in Hebrew, lichnos, to enter, besoid hu emunah, go into the esoteric secret of faith. That's how you will experience the listakola. Says the Rebbe, v'zel vyadata hayoim v'shavayis levecha, and this the Zohar interprets as the real meaning of you shall know that Hashem will Elohim. Shetzricha liyas hasaga v'avona belikus. You can't just say, I believe in God and go play golf or go learn Gemara or Chassidus. No. You have to meditate and reflect and understand the intricacies of God, understand the Hasoga V'Avona B'Likus, and this will lead, and this opens up to you the secret of faith, the power of faith. So of course, like I said yesterday, the foundation of the house is most important to see if the house is worth anything, right? If the foundation is ruined. So faith is ultimately it. But how do you get to appreciate faith? How? How do I get to explore real faith? By going through the hasaga, the comprehension, be'iyun analysis. In other words, in simple English, chevra, you got to ask the hard questions. Those questions that we asked when we were teenagers and young adults, whether we were from the 60s, 70s, or 80s, when people were still somewhat seeking before we got into the 90s looking for a Porsche and plenty of money in your bank account and a nice girl. But when things were normal and people were seeking, something, they asked the questions, they challenged. Like I told you, those pegishas, those weekend encounters in Crown Heights that Yonason probably went to some, were amazing. I loved them, and I was a real, Hasidic, narrow-minded boy from Brooklyn. I didn't know of colleges. I knew of Crown Heights and Borough Park. That's all I knew about. And I came to this weekend, and here are these college students throwing these challenging questions. Is there a God? Screaming at the rabbis, arguing. And Emmanuel Shachadol Vasholem would say, I am God. And the guy looks at him, for a guy was a Jew for Yoshkenebach. He was caught, and he says he's quoting Isaiah 53, and he's quoting this, and then the Son, the Trinity, and all that stuff. And Shachad gets up and he says, hey, who you're looking at? God. He says, what? Son of God. He says, yeah, my name is Emmanuel, Imanu Kale. God's with me. The place cracked up, right? And then when I was in Morristown, and in Yonason, the yeshiva, the Tiferes Bachurim yeshiva, you had such bright guys, but there were some guys. You had a guy who was a Nazir, and you had geniuses, and you had strange people, but brilliant people, and it was such a new experience to hear for us, yeshiva boys out of Crown Heights, out of 770, was an eye-opener. So what is the Rebbe saying here? The Rebbe is saying here that all of this, the tough questions, are not to be thrown under the carpet. You see? In Chabad in particular, we're not afraid of the questions. Ask the question. On the contrary, ask. We want you to ask. Do we always have the answers? No, we don't always have the answers. But the asking process, the iyun process, leads to a stronger faith. And although every single Jew has what we call the simple faith in God, which is set, which is kavua, believing in his heart, shemaimin b'Hashem, believing in God, the iyum mimale kol almin, that God fills all worlds. Number two, v'iyum seivav kol almin, and God encompasses all worlds. Number three, v'lei sasar, and there is no place, ponui minei, that's empty of God. And the Rebbe says everyone believes in these three things. So what do I need faith for, Yaini? Says the Rebbe, mikol mokim, nevertheless, see if it says, Da selekei avicha, you shall know your God. Da, avi, da. Hi, Dad. Dad, da. No. Shetzricha liyas hasoga v'das. There has to be knowledge and comprehension. A dad? What's a dad? A da. Why is he a dad? Because he's a da. And if he's missing the da, he's not a dad. You have to know God. The Elokei Avicha, right? It says, Da es Elokei Avicha. Know the God of your father. What does Elokei Avicha refer to? Hu inyan, hu emunah. That refers to faith. right? My father, oh, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my grandmother, they came from the shtetl. He was a rabbi, she was a rebbetzin, they did this, and they were so pious, and what are you? That's the famous story, right, with Shake Feifer. A fellow goes to a masiba, he goes to a gathering, and he's holding his wine, he's holding his champagne, he's walking around like a millionaire, and he's fancy, and all these rabbis and scholars and philosophers and big shots and bigwigs are all walking around, and he comes there, and they've never seen him. And what does he do? He says, and what's your name? My name is Yoni Sprecher. Oh, Yoni Sprecher. I know your grandfather. Oh, unbelievable. What's your name? My name is Velvel. Oh, I remember back there in Russia. I remember Yezeda. Oh, what a religious Jew he was. Unbelievable. And he goes around the room asking, and they've never seen this guy. So finally they stop this guy and they say, and what's your name? Who are you? And he says, you know who I am? Shake Feifer. Shake is the name Yeshaya, but the nickname we call him Shake. Shake the whistleblower. All I can do is just blow a whistle because I have nothing really to sell and share. That's one interpretation of the story. I heard this sort of Mendel Futterfass. In other words, I'm a nobody. Another way of explaining the story is he doesn't say it with a broken heart. I am a Shake Feifer. He says it, I am Shake Feifer. You know why? Because I myself am a nothing, but I blow my Rebbe's horn. I toot what my Rebbe and my teacher taught me. And with their koyach, I will blow and fife and whistle and go walk around the room like a big shot, because it's not about me, it's about what I'm communicating. It's a very important story for life. This anecdote, whether it happened or it didn't happen, it's such an important insight into life and behavior. So why did I remind myself now of this story? Because we're talking about Das Elokei Avicha. So the Rebbe says Elokei Avicha refers to Emunah. Da refers to Yediyah. Elokei Avicha, the God of your father. So that's faith. Faith meaning my father, my grandfather, my ancestors, they were holy and pious and righteous people. That's not enough. There has to be da. You have to explore. I don't care about your grandparents. I don't care about your yichus. Yichus are like a bunch of zeros. If you have a one in front of it, it means something. If you don't have one referring to yourself, the one, the person, then they're all a bunch of zeros. 0 times 0 equals 0. If you put a one in front of it, the zeros have a lot of value. Who is the one? Da. Dad, da. You want your kids to appreciate who you are? You want them to look up to their dad? You become a da. Bespeak knowledge, bespeak intelligence, bespeak iyun, in-depth analysis. Then they say, oh, my father is a thinker. My father thinks about things. My father has knowledge. My father is not just someone who does things because that's the way he was raised. It's very important. Let's continue. There has to be know your father. A person must make his mind be in depth. With wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, to exert himself with exertion of flesh and exertion of soul. Lahaskil ulahavim, to comprehend, to understand and comprehend, veleda, to know, kol kamash yesh biyicholti bilahavin ulahaskil, because as much as is humanly possible for this individual, for every individual, to understand of God, of godliness. And through this comprehension, he ascends from level to level, behamonas elikus, in believing in God, v'hainu. The other, but the contrary. The choshu maskilu masir yoseh binyon elikus. The more you understand and comprehend of godly ideas, it makes you greater. Your faith becomes greater. This is also important. Contrary to some argument out there is, creeping into knowing about God doesn't strengthen your faith. Says the Rebbe, wrong. You'll become a Jew with more emunah in God if you have more yediyah in God. So therefore, don't underestimate the importance of yediyah. Yes, you understand.
Yeah, that's what I said yesterday about the oil in the water.
Yes. It's exactly what you said. You put more water in, the oil rises. Very good. The more you have knowledge and comprehension of godliness, in that level of God that is comprehensible, maybe it leads to a in-depth knowledge, hafla, of the wonder, an exaltation, essential exaltation, delikus of godliness, habilti musik, that is incomprehensible. In other words, like the Yonis said a moment ago, the more knowledge you have, the more your relationship with God, who is beyond comprehension, will become more part of you. As it says, Zekeli vanveyu. This is my God, and I will beautify him. Elikei avi, but the God of my father, and I'll exalt him. So the explanation, the zeh moire, that's page 210. Al hagilui. Zeh, the word zeh means this, compared to so. Repkoi, which means so, zeh means this, refers to revelation. And we will say on that day, this is Hashem, we can point to him. Zeh Hashem kivinu loi, this is the God that we hoped for. So therefore, Zeh, he brings a proof that Zeh means this, clear. Vanveyu, it says Zeh Keli, this is my God, Vanveyu, and I will beautify him. Vanveyu, Peirus, B'Shalom, Anivahu. The Shalom interprets, Anveyu is comprised of two words, Ani, I, Vahu, and he. That's from the Shalom Kodesh. Upeirushin, this means the Kasher Zeh Keli. When there is the experience of this is my God, who bebchinas madregas anivahu, it becomes so palpable that it's anivahu v'hainu the kasha miyageya klei moiche, when a person exerts their mind uklei sichloi lahaskil ohavim v'leida yonah b'lekus, to understand godly ideas she'efshar lavinum l'hasigim, that they are possible to understand. And the manner in which he understands it, it's to the point where it permeates to the point that he, ani, I, vahu, and God, are actually captured in the person's mind and heart. This is what we referred to earlier in the Mimer, in the name of the Zayar, the idea of gazing. The result of that type of comprehension will lead to the God of my father, that God is the God of my father, and I exalt him. It leads you to have the wondrous, exalted on this relationship of the God's essence, which is only relegated to the realm of Emunah. And that emunah you will have because you went through the process of Zeh Keli Vanvehu. The Reinkheit von emunah, and the Rebbe says in Yiddish, you will have what we call the Reinkheit. Reinkheit means the purity of faith. Canal, as we said earlier, emunah mashalamayla mima shenitfas gam bemuskel. Emunah is something that transcends any level of comprehending God. Nor das is klar stark in Yiddish. It is clear. It is clearly strong. unrein and pure, und Starkheit im in alles, und stärkt im in alles, and it strengthens the person in everything. That's emunah. So that's basically. And tomorrow, Shem, I hope to finish the mimer. So next week we can begin maybe a Hanukkah mimer or Yutas Kislev. We'll see. Any thoughts and questions on this? Okay. Yes. Yes.
The mimer does not look like it ends anytime soon.
Hold on. I don't know what mimer. You're right. Okay. I got. Hillel, you're right. Oh boy, forget it. We're learning this mimer through Hanukkah. That was good, Hillel. Yes. Yeah, okay. Baruch Hashem. God gives life and health, and we learn more. Yes, what did you want to say, Jonas?
Yeah, I want you to say that when you do humanity, where it becomes clear intellectually what you see, and then it's like putting on glasses, like you're looking through the idea into the world.
Right.
It's becoming your world view now.
Right.
The way you understand it, that becoming your world view.
Well, Yonason, I know that you are into his bindiness, so maybe one day, sooner than later, you'll be able to lead a shiur or a workshop, hopefully, in real life person on his bindiness. The Rebbe, what?
It would be a great pleasure.
Yes, because it's an unknown, undone aspect in the world of Judaism and Hasidism and in the world of Chabad. We yap about it and we talk about it, but who practices his bindiness? Who attempts to practice this is bindiness? And it's something that
Those people who did meditation when they were younger, now they know from the Mitzvah what Jewish, authentic Hasidic meditation is all about.
Okay, but you but it's not like Lahavdil in Buddhism or with the breathing exercises, and even what the Dr. Landis and Dr. Twersky, the Chabad meditation is very different than that. It's not. Those are all those things. They're different. They have its merit and its place. I'm not poo-pooing all of it. If it's not Avodah Zarah, Chas v'Shalom, which it's not, but it's not Chabad Mizbaninus. So, it would be, this is something that I think that we who have been teaching Hasidus for years struggle with. It's an ongoing thing, and the best of teachers, have a hard time communicating this. A man like, from Australia, Label. Right, so label, label Wolf. So, I've seen. I had him twice. I brought him to California, and it's a good attempt, but I didn't feel that especially long term. You have to create a system, and this is what the Rebbe really wanted. When the Rebbe in 1979 in the summer spoke about creating a kosher method of Jewish meditation for those that need it, the Rebbe wanted to have long-term effect in a healthy way, not just a short, quick fix. And from time to time, I remember Hill once contacted me, someone from Australia, and I could see we're all like grappling. It's like we're grappling. We don't have it down pat. So you never know who will be the one that will give the recipe that makes it easy for the average Yid to use and practice. Okay. Have a great day, everyone. See you tomorrow. Take care. Amen. 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 Thank you. Bye-bye.
Amen.